Hello and welcome to this After Effects certification preparation series of videos. I'm Luisa Winters. In this video, we're going to cover Objective 1.5, 1.5a to be more exact, which is to demonstrate knowledge of common animation terms and principles. Let's get to it. Easing. Easing is the process of making an animation not so severe or pronounced. In other words, it's an acceleration or a deceleration. It's not just linear. It's not just going from here, very robotic-like. It's more fluid motion. It's an acceleration, a deceleration. The movement that starts slowly and accelerates is called an ease out. So that's like accelerating in your car, pushing the gas pedal. When you ease in, you're decelerating. So acceleration, deceleration, ease out, ease in. This is an example. Squash, and stretch. It gives your animated characters and objects the illusion of gravity, weight, and flexibility. It's just an illusion because, of course, these are just computer generated. This is a good example of it. Anticipation. Anticipation helps to prepare the viewer for what's about to happen. When applied, it has the effect of making the object's actions more realistic. So this is a good example of anticipation. It's just the bat hitting the ball. Staging. Staging in animation is a lot like composition in artwork. And what is meant by this is that you should use motion to guide the viewer's eye to where you want that attention to be. So use motion for that. And this is a good example of that. Moving on. Straight ahead action and pose to pose. This is kind of difficult in After Effects because everything is going to be keyframed. So there is not too much straight ahead action, but I'll try to demonstrate this the best I can. Keep in mind that this is working in the industry, not working in After Effects. If it were After Effects, then, we have to do pose. Those would be kind of like the keyframes. So straight ahead action involves drawing frame by frame. Boom, boom, 3. Straight ahead action involves drawing frame by frame. Drawing frame 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. While pose to pose, you draw the beginning and then the end, and then a few in between if you need to, and that's how the animation is done. So this is a good example of straight ahead actions, and I get it. In After Effects, it's kind of difficult because it doesn't really exist, but see how there's like a keyframe on each and every frame? And in here you have just a couple of keyframes, and that's enough to give you the motion that you need. So pose to pose or straight ahead action. Moving on, follow through and overlapping action. When objects come to a standstill after being in motion, different parts of the object will stop at different rates. Similarly, not everything on an object will move at the same rate. Similar to the stretch and squash, but a little bit different. So this would be a good example of that. Slow in and slow out. Well, this is kind of the same as easing, right? Ease out, an acceleration, ease in, a deceleration. In here, they have it as two separate terms, but it's related to easing. So again, here is another example of that. Arc. When working in an animation, it's best to stick with the laws of physics, and most objects follow an arc or a path when they're moving. So your animations should reflect that. If you throw a ball in the air, it's just going to go up and down in an arc, and that's what they're talking about here. Secondary action. Secondary actions are used to support the main action going on with a scene. Adding secondary actions help add more dimension to your characters and objects. Timing. For this principle of animation, we need to look at the laws of physics again. If you move an object more quickly or slowly than it would naturally move in the real world, the effect would not be believable. Unless, of course, you're using exaggeration, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, but that's another technique, right? So just make sure that things are timed in a natural fashion so that they are more believable. Exaggeration. Too much realism can ruin an animation. In other words, if it's too realistic, yeah, it's not going to work. Well, if you exaggerate some things, then you bring things like comic relief, and it actually delivers the message quite well. Solid drawing. You need to understand the basics of drawing, perspective, and this includes how to draw three-dimensional space and understanding form and anatomy. That's why a lot of artists take classes in anatomy, so that they know how the human muscles move naturally, how to draw them, etc., etc. Appeal. Your characters, objects, and the world in which they live need to appeal to the viewer. In other words, if they're boring, ugly, or whatever, then people are not going to want to watch them. So if they're cute or funny or whatever, then you increase their appeal. And this brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next one.